All right, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Senior and Family College Bound Planning Night. My name is Mrs. Bianca Novacek, and I am the new College and Career Counselor here. Usually I would not be so formal, stand behind a podium, but we are recording this presentation this evening, so if you do need to leave early, I will have a recording put together for all of you, and I'll send that out in a couple days once it's fine-tuned and everything. So tonight we're going to talk all about senior year and the college application process. First off, congrats seniors. You did it. You made it. We're almost to the home stretch. Congratulations. Tonight we're going to talk a little bit about what the four-year application process looks like. So if you're someone that's considering maybe a two-year college, maybe a technical school, trade force, we will have other programming that will focus on that criteria, but tonight is mostly going to be that four-year application process. All right, so I know the QR code might be a little triggering to many of you after Friday night's football game, but I'm a millennial, and this is what we do. So if you have a question tonight, I'm going to have QR codes showing up on a couple of my slides. Throughout the night, you can open up your iPhone or your smartphone. You don't need to take a picture. Just open up the camera app and hover over the QR code. From there, it will take you to a Google slide or a Google form where you can input your question. And then at the end of the program, what I'll do is I'll put together a question and answer sheet that I will share out with this recorded presentation at a later date. So your question will be answered. All right, so let's talk about our school counseling department. These are your counselors. All of you are assigned a particular counselor, and this will continue to be your day-to-day point of contact for any academic, social, emotional, or college and career questions that you have. My role as the college and career counselor is to serve as an extra layer of support. So I like to think of myself like a consultant. If you have a question about applications, about a specific school, about a major or a program of interest, I'm your go-to girl for that. If you are someone that feels more comfortable talking to your counselor, that's okay too. I don't carry a caseload. Essentially, the entire school is my caseload, and I'm here to just be an extra resource for students and families. So senior meetings are happening right now. Your counselor is scheduling those on an individual basis, and what's happening is you're meeting with your individual counselor and you're talking all about your senior year goals and life after Carmel. This is a great time to talk about your college applications, and it's a really great time to get that individual support from your counselor. All right, so we have a little bit of a packed agenda this evening. I'm going to be going through all of the components of what goes into the college application process. So we're going to go ahead and get started talking a little bit about Maya Learning. All right, so Maya Learning. This is essentially our new Naviance, for those of you who are familiar with Naviance. So with Maya Learning, we are going to use this as our college and career readiness platform. It's a great tool for researching colleges and universities, and it's going to be critical in the college application process. So I like to think of Maya as your assistant. Anytime you do something on your college applications, you need to report that in Maya. And I'll talk a little bit more about that later on what I mean. I also like to think of Maya Learning as our electronic post office for sending any Carmel-related documents. So for example, your transcripts, our school profile, and recommendation letters, those are all Carmel-related documents that will be sent through Maya Learning. So again, think of Maya as your assistant. Anything that you need or put on your applications will need to go through Maya Learning. The one thing to be cognizant about, Maya is new for us this year. I know that it was slowly starting to be integrated into the curriculum last year, but we are fully running with Maya Learning and not Naviance anymore. So please be patient with us. Please be patient with me. It's a learning curve for all, especially myself. And we will work through any situations or problems that arise, but I'm excited about this new program, and I'm excited that we're going to get to use it with the class of 2023. All right, so let's talk a little bit about college rep visits. These reps sign up to come to Carmel, and it's a great opportunity for them to sell you on their college and university. Our college rep visits are going to kick off on Tuesday, right after Labor Day, Tuesday, September 6th. They are held throughout various class periods of the day throughout the months of September, October, and November. Right now, we already have more than 65 colleges registered to come onto our campus, and this is a great opportunity for our students to get a snapshot of that particular college and university within a 40-minute meeting. It's a great time if you are applying to the school and perhaps you have a question about an application that you're putting forward, or it's also a great time if you are maybe trying to add a couple more colleges to your list and you want to learn a little bit more. All of our college rep visits have been input into Veracross, so this is a little bit different for those of you that maybe attended a college visit last year. We're going to have all of our rep visits registration taking place in Veracross. So only students can sign up. Sorry, parents, you can't join during the school day. But this is a great opportunity for our students to access the portal and then sign up for a visit. So this is just a quick little snapshot of what it looks like in Veracross. If you go down to the bottom, you'll be able to see that it says register for a college rep visit, and you can click on there and see the date and time that that particular school is coming. All right, so let's talk a little bit about refining your college list. So a solid college list should fit you in 3 criteria: academically, socially, and financially. So first things first, you go to college to get an education. So we need the school to fit you academically. However, we also want the school to fit you socially. So that's being aware of recognizing the type of person that you are. Are you someone that thrives in a smaller environment or perhaps a bigger environment? It's starting to research different schools that can fit you on a social basis. Lastly, you want that college to fit you financially. College is expensive to go to, so it's really important to have those uncomfortable dinner table conversations with your parents, with your guardians, and talking about who's paying for college and how you're paying for college. So I encourage you to start those conversations now. It will make things easier in the long run, especially as you're completing a lot of these college applications. Maya Learning is a great tool for looking at scattergrams. And these scattergrams can help you determine if a school is within your safety, target, or reach category. And I really encourage all of you, when sitting down to build out your college list, to determine if that school is within your safety, your target, or your reach. So to give you a little recap, if a school is a safety, it means that you feel pretty confident that you're going to be admitted there. A target school means that you're on the bubble. You hope to be admitted there. And a reach school, that's wishful hope. That's you being wishful that you're going to be admitted there. So we really want you to sit down and build out your college list in that regard. The college or university's published freshman admitted profile is also another great tool to use. So you can go online, you can look up any college or university's admitted profile, and you can see what the mid 50%, so 50% of students, what academic criteria they are admitted with. That's another great way to build out your college list. I also just want to caution everybody, be aware that there are certain programs and majors that are more competitive than other programs and majors. So for example, you may think that you're confident of being admitted to a school, yet you apply to their most competitive program. You may not get in then. So just being aware that everyone has different criteria. I also like to give you one last piece of advice. When you're making your list of schools, don't just throw random schools on there. Actually, take the time to do your research and to visit these schools and determine if they would be a place that you could potentially be happy at. All right, so here's a question that I often get. How many colleges should I apply to? It depends. We like to say around 5 to 8 schools. That's about the average application amount that a high school student will complete. Now, everyone's is a little bit different. If you find yourself not being able to come up with 5 schools that you want to apply to, that's okay. If you find yourself applying to a few more than 8, that's okay too. I like to give just a little point of trying not to apply to more than 10. And I say that because once you start getting all of these admission decisions, it can be hard to come down to a final school that you want to go to. It can make making a decision difficult. So I try to caution you from applying to that many schools. Now, like I said, everyone's individual case is different. So if you're an athlete and you're being recruited, you might find yourself applying to more schools. This is just an average, just some parameters I like to give. All right, so let's talk a little bit about the different application plans and what they mean. So when you're filling out your applications, you're going to see that there are different filing periods that you can apply for. Now, these application plans are broken down into 2 wings. You have your non-restrictive plans and your restrictive plans. The non-restrictive plans don't come with any strings attached. You're not obligated to go to the school if you're admitted. There are no strings attached to it. So we mostly see our students apply to non-restrictive plans. Our restrictive application plans, those have some strings attached to it, and we'll talk a little bit about it in a second. So let's start with the non-restrictive application plans. There are 3: regular decision, rolling admission, and early action, or otherwise known as priority. So regular decision, this means that a student will submit an application by a specified date, and they will receive a decision in a clearly stated amount of time. So a good example of this is Boston University. BU has a regular decision deadline of January 1st, and they tell their applicants that they will expect a decision by mid-March. Rolling admission means that institutions review these applications on a day-by-day basis. They are submitted, and then they can project an admission decision to you within a few days to a few weeks. So a good example would be the University of Iowa. They are a rolling admission school. You can apply in August, and you will most likely have a decision by October. Early action. This is by far the most popular. So if you're going to listen to anything tonight, listen to this. Students will apply early, and they receive a decision well in advance of the regular decision deadline. So this can sometimes be called priority. A good example would be Tulane University. So Tulane has an early action deadline. They also have a regular decision deadline, but that early action deadline is November 1. If you apply by November 1, you typically have an admission decision by mid-December. My word of advice to you is try to apply early action or priority whenever the opportunity presents itself. I say that for a couple reasons. 1, you're getting your applications done sooner than later. That's the best part. 2, you're looked at in that first wave of applicants that are coming across the admissions committee's desk. So you're looked at for one of the very first seats in the incoming freshman class. It also sets you up to be looked at for the most amount of institutional scholarship and financial aid. So because the pool of funds is at its greatest in the very beginning, in that early period, it is better for you to apply sooner than later. That way you're looked at for the max amount. It also increases your chance of being admitted. So again, going back to the fact that you are looked at in that first wave of applicants, if the school decides, hey, we can't admit you right away, we can maybe defer your application and wait until those second semester grades come in. They can re-review you at a later date. Now let's talk a little bit about restrictive application plans. These two application plans tend to have some strings attached to it. Many of you may have heard of early decision. Now, early decision, early action, they're often confused. I don't know why they didn't come up with a different name, but they didn't. So early decision means that this is a legal binding application. If you are admitted to the school, you are going to the school. Despite what your scholarship package may look like, despite what your financial aid package may look like, you are telling that college or university that you are applying in their early decision pool because you are 110% confident that you want to go there. So I caution you that if you're going to apply early decision, be aware that we can't help you if you get yourself into a situation that we can't get you out of financially. Now, with the early decision forms, the student has to sign off on it, the parents have to sign off on it, and so does the counselor. So if you make a mistake, at least one of the counselors can stop you before submitting because we have to sign off on it. Restrictive early action, otherwise known as REA. So students will apply to an institution and they receive a decision early. However, it comes with a couple strings attached. For example, they may tell you that you're not allowed to apply early decision to another school. They may tell you you can't apply early action or priority to any other colleges. Not many schools have an REA application plan. You'll mostly see this amongst the Ivies. Stanford is an example of that. If you have questions about REA, come see me, come see a counselor, and we can help clarify that for you. All right, let's talk a little bit about what goes into a college application. So many applications opened as early as August 1st. The rest of the college applications across the country will open tomorrow, September 1st. So they are open after midnight tonight. In a completed application, you're going to have the physical application. You're going to complete any essays, if applicable. You'll submit your transcript. You'll submit any recommendation letters, if necessary. You'll submit your test scores if you're planning to use them. A copy of our school profile that shows our GPA and our curriculum and the courses that we offer will also be sent. And then you'll pay any applicable fees. So let's talk a little bit about the different types of applications. The most common is called the Common Application. There are over 1,000 colleges and universities on the Common App. 80 to 90% of students who apply to a four-year institution use the Common App. So more than likely, most of you, if not all of you, will be filing a Common App this year. My advice to you is to create your Common App account, go in, add the schools that you're planning to apply to, and then answer any school-specific questions that are on that application. From there, we can help you out with all of the rest of requesting your transcript and your letters of recommendation that we'll talk a little bit more about in just a minute. So the Common App, for lack of a better phrase, it's essentially killing two birds with one stone. You fill out one application, and that same application is sent to all the schools that you're planning to apply to. You can apply to up to 20 on the Common App. It's important for you to indicate your application deadlines on your Common App. because your counselors are going to be responsible for sending a slew of documents on your behalf to the schools, and they need to know which application period that you're applying to. If they don't know, they can't help make sure that those documents arrive in a good amount of time. All right, so let's talk about another application. It's called the coalition application. So it's used by 150, give or take, colleges and universities. As of this application period, this application cycle that we are in, there are no coalition exclusive schools. So what that means is, of those 150 colleges and universities, they are all on the Common App. My word of advice to all of you, in my professional opinion, is not to use the coalition application. It's very complicated. If you choose to use the coalition application, by all means, that's your decision, and we will help support you through that with whatever we can do. But to streamline things and to make things a little bit easier, I do highly recommend the Common App. The University of Washington was the last standing coalition exclusive school, and as of this year, they've joined the Common App. And last but not least, if you don't apply on the Common App, and if you don't apply on the coalition application, every college and university most likely may have their own institution's app. And oftentimes, this college or university will have this posted on their website. It lives straightforward under their apply button on their website, and you can fill out their application. I'll tell you right now, it does not matter what application you complete to submit to the colleges. It will not increase your chances if you apply on one application over the other. They don't care about that. So my word of advice is, if you can find it on the Common App, do it. That way you don't have to spend so much time and energy filling out applications. But if you prefer to apply directly through that school's website, you are more than welcome to do that, and we will help support you with that. All right, we're going to transition into talking a little bit about the essay and the personal statement component to the application process. All right, so what's the purpose of the essay? I'll tell you what, this is definitely the hardest part for our seniors. We often find our seniors really struggling to get started on their essay and their personal statements, and I encourage you to get started sooner than later. The purpose of this is to provide information that's not found in your test scores, on your transcript, or in your extracurricular list. It's a good writing sample that you're going to give the colleges that can show them that you know how to write coherently. I like to give a couple tips. Now, if you see that an essay is optional, it's not really optional. So take that for what it's worth most of the time. By answering that optional essay, you're showing the colleges that you're taking the extra initiative to put your best foot forward and that you're truly interested in their college. If you're someone that's on the bubble, this is a great opportunity for you to take that extra step and show them that you're really interested in their university. Answer the prompt. This is hard for a lot of people. It's hard to stay focused on what the prompt is asking you. And it's oftentimes difficult for students to use this time to talk about themselves. It's great if you want to talk about a parent or a grandparent that's been influential in your life, but tie it back to you somehow. How did this person impact your life, and what did you gain from it? Try to remember those questions when you're answering the prompts. Proofread. This is so incredibly important. So I suggest that you always have at least 2 people proofread your essay. Have someone look at it for content and have someone look at it for grammar. Now, parents, you're great proofreaders. I'm sure all of you are. Sometimes you can be a little biased. So if you're the content proofreader, be aware that you love your child and you want to see them do great, but I encourage the students to maybe look for someone that's not as close to them as their parent to look at their essay. Writing your essay can be really hard. It's going to channel you to write differently than what you're used to. It's more of journal-style writing, and many of you probably don't do journal-style writing. So oftentimes, you'll find yourself having to answer these analytical questions that will really force you to go deep and to really think through how to portray the answer to that question that they're asking you. For example, University of Chicago has the wonkiest application questions. This year they have a really interesting one that's, what advice would a wisdom tooth give? You're not going to find yourself talking about your standard college essay in that. They're looking for you to go deep and to answer it in a different way that not most people will answer. And that's okay. You can veer off the path. So don't be scared to experiment a little bit with how to write your essay. All right, so let's talk about the Common App again. So the Common App has a requirement of one essay, at least. Now, most of the time, that one essay is going to be sent to all of the colleges that you're applying to. So my suggestion to you is don't write this essay geared towards a college. So for example, if you're applying to Marquette, don't name them in this application essay, because the University of Missouri might read it. Just be careful. There's usually 7 essay prompts that you can choose from. Most of the time you only need to write one essay, but there are some schools that will require you to answer additional prompts. So again, give yourself the gift of time with looking over all of the application questions on every school when you insert them into your Common App, because you might find yourself having to write 2 or 3 essays for an application. I can tell you right now that the University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign requires you to write at least 2 essays. So don't wait until 11 o'clock the night before when it's due, because you will have to write 2 short essays at minimum. All right, so oftentimes, and especially on the Common App, you're going to see this optional community disruption, or otherwise known as the COVID essay. Now this one, I promise, is truly optional. So like I said just a couple minutes ago, when you see optional, doesn't always mean that it's optional. This one is optional. It's a space on the Common App that will give students the opportunity to discuss any deep or long-lasting effects that they've had from a community disruption. So for many of us, that might be COVID. For our peers out in California, that could be wildfires. Everyone's situation's a little bit different. Like I said, don't feel obligated to respond to this unless you have something that you truly need to share. So let's say you get started on your application and your essay and you need a little bit of help. We are great resources here at Carmel to help you look over your essay. You can schedule an appointment with myself. I'm happy to sit down and look through your essay for you and to give you some feedback. You can sit down with your individual counselor. They're a great resource to use as well, especially if they know you, or maybe if they don't know you that well. You can sit down with your English teacher if you have a relationship with them and they're willing to look at your essay. And then again, talking about your parents, friends, and family, they too can be really great resources to pick into. All right, so we're going to talk a little bit about transcripts now and the role that they play in the application process. All right, so transcripts. If an official transcript is required for the application, you will need to request this in Maya Learning. Now, I'm planning to come in to all of the English classes in the next couple of weeks where I'm going to sit down and go through a really intense Maya training with our seniors. I'm going to show you how to request your transcripts in Maya. This needs to be done at least 2 weeks prior to your application deadline. We're setting our own internal deadline here at Carmel, and we're doing that for a couple reasons. One, our counselors have a ton of paperwork they have to send with your applications, and they need to know who's applying where and when. 2, we're also using a new system. So we're doing this for not only ourselves, but for all of you to make sure that your documents can arrive in a secure and in a timely fashion. When your official transcript is sent from Carmel, a copy of our school profile is also included. And that school profile will show the GPA that we use here, the courses that we offer, and a short synopsis of our curriculum guide. Now, we don't class rank. We do that for a couple reasons. Not many high schools around here do. If you find yourself running into a question on the Common App or on your applications asking if we class rank, all you have to say is not applicable. It's not unusual. The colleges will not hold this against you by any means. You're also going to include your cumulative GPA. We grade on a 4.0 scale here, so you can always report your unweighted and your weighted GPA. Oftentimes that weighted GPA will be higher because you've taken honors or AP courses here. Now, for those of you that have maybe already started your applications and you just need your transcript sent, we're going to start sending those once the requests are made in Maya beginning on Tuesday. So we always give our students a couple weeks to make sure that no one's making any schedule changes. We give our counselors the opportunity to conduct those credit checks, and we also give our registrar the time to upload all of those transcripts and to make sure that the GPAs are in sync. So your transcripts will start to be sent as early as Tuesday if you're ready to go. Now, the one thing that I want to point out, and we'll talk a little bit more about this, seniors, when I come into your English classes, that your Maya learning accounts and your Common App accounts have to be linked. So again, in the beginning of the presentation, when I talked about how Maya is like your assistant in our electronic post office, it has to be linked with your Common App account. That way we can send your documents to those Common App schools. We'll talk more about this in our training, and I do have resources that I can give all of you on how to link your accounts, but it's really important that that gets done. For the schools that you're not applying to on the Common App, for example, if you're applying directly on their website, we still send all of your documents through Maya. So those requests will need to be made there. All right, so I'm going to talk about this little thing called the SRAR, or otherwise known as the Self-Reported Academic Record. Self-reporting is a means coming upon the college application season where our students will go in and they will report their grades and their credits to the colleges. It means that an official transcript is not required. So a couple things here. You can't go in saying that you had all straight A's if you really didn't have straight A's all 4 years here. They will catch you in a lie. Don't do that. You need to report your grades and your credits exactly how they are portrayed on your transcript. So this is often done because the colleges want to see how well you can follow instructions, and they also want to see your attention to detail. So a slight mistake like a B to a B minus or a B minus to a C plus, that can make a difference on your application. So it's important for you to gain a copy of your transcript and really take the time that you're entering everything correctly. You'll see on the screen that a couple of our big hitter schools are self-reporting. So the University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign, our flagship here in the state, they are a self-reporting institution, meaning that you're going to self-report your transcript and you're going to self-report any test scores that you send. And we'll talk about that in a second. Same thing with the University of Iowa. They are another self-reporting school. The entire University of the California system, they will not take an official transcript. So you could essentially apply tonight and not even need your official transcript in the end. All right, we're going to talk a little bit about recommendation letters and how that plays into the application process. So your recommendation letters, they're not required by all colleges. I can't stress that enough. In fact, many schools are moving away from a recommendation letter. If a college or university does require a recommendation letter, oftentimes they only need one. There are very few colleges out there that actually require 2 recommendation letters. I can tell you right now that University of Chicago is one of them. So if you're thinking about applying to that school, you will need 2. But for the most part, these schools really only need 1. Now I know this process can get a little out of hand. So my word of advice to all of you is to adhere to the minimum requirement. So if they ask for 1 recommendation letter, that's enough. So who's going to write these recommendation letters? Your teachers and your counselors. Your academic teachers who know you best from you learning in their classroom are fantastic resources to write for you. Your best option is asking a junior year teacher. And I say that because they were the most recent teacher that you've had in your academic classes. Now, you might be someone that feels you have a really great and strong relationship with a sophomore teacher. That's okay. They just haven't seen you learn in a while. You might be someone that is really starting to get to know your senior year teacher. That's okay too. I would only recommend for you to use a senior year teacher if you really don't have someone else to write for you. Now, you might find yourself wanting to study a core area. For example, if you're going into engineering, maybe you want a science or a math teacher to write for you, and that individual was maybe a sophomore teacher. That's okay. So if you need to talk through about who to have write a recommendation letter, talk to your counselor about it. Sometimes a coach, a church leader, or an employer might offer to write you a recommendation letter. For the most part, in the admission process, these admission committees are looking for either an academic teacher or a counselor to write you a rec letter. It's not very often that they want to see this coach or this religious leader or maybe an employer. They're not really looking for that supplemental writer. If they are, that individual can send that rec letter to the Office of Admissions themselves. So let's talk a little bit about if you want to add extra additional rec letters, or if you're thinking about sending a rec letter for a school that says that it's optional. So occasionally students will want to send an additional recommendation letter or that optional rec letter. My word of advice to you is to confirm first that the school will actually consider the recommendation letter. Fun fact, if you didn't know this, the University of Illinois, Urbana-Champaign, does not read recommendation letters. They throw them right in the garbage. So if you're thinking about applying there and you're thinking, I need a rec letter, you don't. So make sure when you're applying to these schools that they actually require them. Think about why you want to submit this recommendation letter. Is it going to be helpful to you? Is it necessary? And what new information does it share? Keep in mind, the person that's reading your recommendation letters and your application is reading thousands of applications and recommendation letters. If they get 5 recommendation letters from one person, they're going to simply stop reading. It's too long and they have too many other applicants to get through. So really think through if it's necessary and if it's going to add any value before seeking out those additional recommendation letters. So let's talk a little bit about what the process of requesting a recommendation letter looks like. The first thing you need to do is the student needs to have a conversation with either their teacher and or their counselor asking if they will write them a recommendation letter. Keep in mind, we have some really awesome and great and popular teachers here who write hundreds of recommendation letters. So my word of advice to all of you is to ask sooner than later, because the teacher might get to a point where he or she needs to turn off writing recommendation letters. They may need to turn you away because they're already writing 50. These individuals are writing in their free periods, in the evenings, on the weekends, and it takes a lot of time. So once you confirm that your teacher or your counselor is going to write your recommendation letter, you need to complete the counselor brag sheet or the teacher brag sheet, depending upon which individual you're asking. And this is an opportunity for the student to essentially brag about themselves. Now, you can invite your recommender in Maya Learning, and then you will upload your completed brag sheet. This brag sheet and this invitation in Maya Learning is mandatory. So in order for you to get a rec letter, you have to do the brag sheet, and you have to invite your recommender in Maya. And we'll talk more about that in training, and I've also developed a whole slew of resources that I'll share with you at the end of the presentation. Letters are going to be submitted electronically to the colleges and universities through Maya Learning. So again, remember that your Maya and your Common App accounts need to be linked, and really being aware that all of your letters are going through that portal. The great thing about Maya is that you can specify which recommendation letters go to which college or universities. So if you have a teacher that you really want their rec letter to go to a specific school, you can indicate that in Maya Learning. And again, I have highlighted on here that 2-week internal deadline. We talked about recommendation letters taking a lot of time and energy to write. You need to give that individual that you're asking at least 2 weeks. I suggest even more than that. It's not too early to ask for a recommendation letter if you need or want one. So don't wait until the last minute to do it, because they won't. Now, parents, you can be a great asset to your student in the recommendation letter process. So if your student is asking for a counselor letter of recommendation, our counselors have developed a parent information form that you can complete, and you can brag all about your kid in there and why the counselor should write the letter of recommendation. And this is really key to helping our counselors craft awesome letters for our students. And we have you do this for the counselors because our teachers have this personal relationship oftentimes with the students by watching them be a learner in their classroom. So you can add a couple extra things about what makes your student awesome. So this little chart will be shared. If you want to grab a picture of it, go for it. This is our 2-week internal deadline for transcripts and recommendation letter requests in Maya Learning. The most popular, that November 1st deadline, is by far the most popular deadline that many of you are going to apply to. Those requests need to be made by October 15th. Keep that in mind. It comes up really quick. There are a couple colleges and universities out there that have an October 15th deadline. Very, very few do. If you're applying to that, you need to make those recommendation requests by October 1st. For anybody that's applying a little bit later into the semester, we ask you to make your requests in Maya Learning by December 7th. And that's because we're going to be going on winter break, and our counselors won't be sending documents during that time. All right, so let's talk a little bit about what FERPA is. FERPA stands for the Family Education Rights and Privacy Act. It's a federal law that governs the privacy of educational records of students. So your educational record belongs to you. Your educational record includes your grades, recommendation letters, school reports, your transcripts. All of that is your personal file, and you make the determination when and if it's shared. Now, you're going to often see this Ferpa Waiver come up on your college applications. I highly encourage all of you to waive your rights on it. And I say that because it shows the colleges that you're not afraid of what is written in your application and in your academic record. It shows that you are allowing them to see your grades to admit you to the university. And oftentimes, the school won't even review your file if you don't waive your FERPA rights. So if you come across this, this is not unusual. It's okay for you to waive your rights. All right, so we're going to transition into talking a little bit about test scores, test optional, and what that component looks like in the application process. And I'll be honest with all of you, this has been a part of the application that has been changing so often for the last 3 years since we've been in this COVID-19 mess. So we do have some new updates for all of you to help make that decision of applying with a test score or without a test score. All right, so here's the million-dollar question. Should I apply test optional? The first question to ask yourself is, does the college or university allow it? There are some schools in the South that for this 2022-2023 application cycle, which we're in, they have gone back and they are requiring test scores now. So those public schools are in Florida, Georgia, and Tennessee. If you find yourself applying to the University of Florida, Florida State, University of Georgia, Georgia Tech, University of Tennessee, Knoxville, and if you find yourself applying to MIT, you're going to need a test score. So right there, that rules out you applying test optional to that institution. I encourage you to review the specific majors and any direct admit programs if they have a standardized testing requirement. So for example, if you're applying direct admit or if you're applying for a competitive major like nursing or engineering, review their application requirements and see if that test score is required. I also encourage you to do a little bit of research and see if this is going to impact your scholarship opportunities. Many schools say that it's not going to affect you if you apply without a test score, but there are many out there now that are saying, hey, you can get more money if you show us a test score. So just review all the application requirements. The second question that I pose to all of you is, does your test score fall close to the mid 50% of admitted test scores published on the school's admission profile? So like I talked about earlier, you can do a Google search. You can take a look and write, hey, what's the University of Iowa's mid 50% of students that are admitted to their university? You want to look for that test score range. This is the way that I look at it. 50% of students are admitted in that range. 25% are admitted higher, 25% are admitted lower. So if your test score falls in that 50% or higher, send it. If you fall lower than that, keep in mind that 25% of the applicants that are applying there are going to be admitted in that lower test score range. But also keeping in mind, does this test score give an accurate reflection of who you are academically? If you feel like your test score doesn't show who you are academically, don't send it. So let's talk a little bit about test blind and test optional. We've done a lot of talk about test optional tonight, meaning that you have the option to send your test scores or not. Test blind means that an institution literally will not look at your test scores. So a school like NIU, Northern Illinois University, they're test blind. You can send them, they're not looking at them. The entire University of California public university system, they are test blind. So keep that in mind when you're determining if you're going to sit for another standardized test or not, if the school's actually going to look at it, and also keep in mind where your current test score falls. If you ever have questions on that, you can come see me, you can come see your counselor, and we're happy to navigate that with you. All right, so let's say that you've decided that you're going to apply test optional. The one thing to note is that if you're not sending a test score, there's going to be a greater emphasis on your high school curriculum and grades. You're going to go through what's called a holistic review. It means that it's a deeper dive on your application. They're going to look at the major that you intend to apply to. They're going to look at your GPA, the course rigor on your transcript. They're going to look at any essays. They may even ask you to write an additional essay if you don't use a test score. And then they're really going to look at your extracurricular and leadership opportunities. So my word of advice to all of you is that if you're planning to apply test optional, make sure that you show a really strong application in all of these areas. And again, your counselor can sit down and help navigate those waters with you. I can sit down and help you as well, but just know that you will be going through a holistic review at that point. If you see on the bottom of the screen, it's a little small, but I like to give everybody the reassurance that when you are applying to a college or university, you're being looked at coming from Carmel Catholic. They cannot compare you to another high school student from a different high school. So no matter what you hear, that's not true, because our curriculum and our GPA is different than what Libertyville High School has to offer. It's different than what St. Viator has to offer. There are different opportunities and different course rigor at our school that schools that are in a rural area may not have access to. So they can't compare you against another high school. So just know that they are looking at our school profile at that point, and they're comparing you against the opportunities that have presented itself here at Carmel Catholic and how you took advantage of that. Let's talk a little bit about submitting and reporting those test scores. So we talked about self-reporting your transcript for certain universities that require that. There are going to be a number of colleges and universities that will allow you to self-report your ACT score. Another thing, you cannot go in and say that you got a 36 on the ACT if you really didn't get a 36 on the ACT. You will get caught. If you choose to decide to apply to that school and if you're admitted, they're going to ask you for an official copy of your score report. So don't put yourself in a situation that you made up this lie and it's not totally true, because you will get busted. So a school like the University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign, they are going to have you self-report your test score. So just be aware of that if you're planning to apply there. You can always look through every college and university's application requirements. If the school requires an official score report, you as the student have to order that through either ACT, if you took the ACT, or College Board if you took the SAT. We do not send your test scores. I'll repeat that again. We do not send your test scores. Those test scores belong to you. They don't belong to us. You have to be the one to send it. They usually cost somewhere between $11 and $13 per score report. So really be cognizant of how many score reports you're sending, because they do add up. If you're planning to retest this fall at a later date and you're trying to get your applications in, consider sending one score now if your score falls within that published test range of that mid 50%. And I say that because many schools will not consider your application complete if you did not send in your score report and if they're awaiting your scores to come. So if you fall within that range, just consider sending it. You can always send an updated test score if the college will allow it. So this slide talks a little bit about a recap of the night and the roles and responsibilities of the student and the counselor here. And the one thing that I really want to point out is that students, seniors, this is your baby. This is what you guys are in charge of. You're the ones going away to college next year, not your parents, not us as the counselors. You should be the captain driving the ship, not us. So the student, your responsibilities are going to include all of these bullet points up on this slide. You're going to be responsible for creating all of your accounts, adding your schools in your applications, linking your Maya Learning and your Common App account, requesting your transcripts and your recommendation letters, submitting official test scores, and you need to be the individual that's communicating with the college rep, not your parents. Oftentimes, the college rep won't even talk to your parents. The counselor, once all of those requests are made in Maya Learning, they will send all of your documents for you. And all of that can be tracked in Maya Learning, and when I come into your English classes in a couple weeks, we'll go over how you can review everything to see if your documents have been sent or not. All right, so now we're going to talk about the boring stuff, and that's how to pay for college. So colleges, those applications, many of them cost money. There are a couple out there that are free. You'll find that the private Catholic universities may throw you a free application here or there, but for the most part, many of them cost between $25 and $60. So if you're applying to a number of schools, that adds up very quickly. I remember when I was applying to colleges, and it must have just blown right over my head that applications cost money, and the next thing I know, I've spent $500 on applications. So take into consideration that they add up and that you do need to pay for them. If you're someone who's at Carmel on significant financial assistance, you can get an application fee waiver from your counselor, so just talk to your counselor about it to waive those fees. If you're someone that's maybe not on financial assistance here, but paying for college applications would present a hardship, talk to your counselor about it, and we can look into getting you an application fee waiver as well. So don't let that discourage you from applying to college. Just come talk to us, and we'll help see what we can do to make it affordable for you. All right, so let's talk a little bit about the FAFSA. The FAFSA is the free application for federal student aid. And this opens beginning October 1st of every year that the student will be in college the following fall. So for example, you're all applying to college for next fall. If you're looking for federal aid, the application will open as early as October 1st. Now, a couple things about this. You're probably not going to know where you're going to college by October 1st, so I encourage all of you to list all of the schools that you're applying to on your FAFSA. In addition to the FAFSA, you may find that some private universities, maybe a few public universities, might require you to complete another tax form called the CSSS profile, or they may have their own institution's form. So again, it's really looking through all of the application requirements and what they need to project a report to tell you how much college is going to cost. We are going to have a virtual college financial aid night on Tuesday, October 11th. Now, we're doing it virtual. It's going to be over Zoom. It's a webinar. They won't be able to see you on the Zoom call, but you'll be able to see our presenter. We're partnering with Vernon Hills High School and Libertyville High School, and we have Jerry Sabrinsky, who is the head of financial aid at Lake Forest College, presenting. And I've known Jerry for a couple years now. He's a wonderful guy, he's brilliant, and he honestly will explain how to pay for college in the simplest terms to all of you if you're not sure on how to do that. So I encourage at least the parents, if you can, to attend that webinar. Students, I think it's worthwhile you joining as well, but I really do encourage you to be part of that. We're going to have a rep from an institution called ISAC, the Illinois Student Assistance Commission, come onto campus here. I don't have dates yet for that, but I will definitely share that with all of you if you need help filing your FAFSA. So this individual will sit down with you and go through your tax documents and help you fill out that form if you've never done it before, if maybe you have multiple students that are going to be in college, or if you just need a refresher on how to do it. It can definitely be confusing, so I'll send out more information over the next couple of weeks once I iron that out. The one thing that I do want to point out about the FAFSA, and you might have heard this from some of your public high school friends, in Illinois public high schools, filing the FAFSA is a graduation requirement. It is not a graduation requirement for us because we are a private high school. You do not need to complete it if you don't want to. I do encourage you to do it if you think you might be eligible for some federal or state grant money or aid. So just know, if you hear a couple of your friends talking about it, it's not a graduation requirement. So let's talk a little bit about scholarships. The majority of scholarship dollars come from the physical colleges or universities. That's where you're going to see the most impact financially on cutting costs of college. Now, I encourage all of you to research the schools, because sometimes the schools might ask you to complete a separate scholarship application, but oftentimes your application to be looked at for merit-based aid or scholarship dollars through an institution is simply done by just filling out that application for admission. Some scholarships might have an additional requirement. For example, if a presidential scholarship through the university that's only given to select few applicants, they might have you write an additional essay or seek out an additional recommendation letter. So always look through requirements for it. Now, you can look into outside scholarships. However, just know that oftentimes these scholarships are very competitive. There are thousands, if not millions, of students applying for them on a national level. There are often not very many that are given out, and they're often not renewable. So that means that it would only be like a one-time payment for a year. You can register with scholarship databases like Sallie Mae, FastWeb, CapEx, and you can be added to maybe their daily digest of sending out scholarships that fit you as a student, and you could apply to them. And we do see people get awarded scholarship dollars through these outside agencies. It's just not very often, but we do see it. So don't let me discourage you by any means. They do take a lot of time and energy, so if you're gonna get started on it, get those applications for admission in first, and then hit the ground running with completing those outside scholarships. All right, we're going to talk about a resource that I put together for all of you called the College and Career Counseling Google site. Again, here we are with the QR codes. I'm sorry for those of you that don't like them. But this College and Career Counseling Google site I've put together, and it is essentially your self-guide to completing your college applications. I've put on there pretty much every piece of information you could need with how to utilize Maya Learning, how to request your transcript, how to request your recommendation letter, down to how many students are in my graduating class. I've started with an application checklist on there that I've hyperlinked all these videos and screenshots. So if you're the student that decides to wait until midnight to start your applications, you can work on them and have all your questions answered for you there. I encourage all of you to bookmark this site. It's listed in Veracross. It's listed in my email signature. Your counselors have the QR code up on their door, so you can scan right in and take a look at it. So I really encourage all of you to really take some time and look through that website. And oftentimes, your counselor and I will direct you right back to there with any questions that you have. All right, so we talked a lot about four-year colleges tonight, which was the bulk topic of this evening. But let's just briefly talk about two-year community colleges, which are fantastic resources for our Carmel Catholic students. You're going to find that probably about 15 to 20% of your graduating class is going to go to a two-year college after Carmel. They are fantastic schools that are great stepping stones if you are looking into potentially finishing your undergrad degree at a four-year institution. They're also wonderful if maybe you're thinking a four-year degree is not what I want. Maybe I just want a two-year degree or a certificate or an endorsement in a particular area. My words of encouragement to all of you is that if you are thinking about applying to community college, you don't need to do it right now, but I would encourage you to apply by March 1st. And this ensures that our students can register for that fall semester on time, and you can get the classes that you want to take. So if you're someone that's thinking about going away to community college and you're going to be working while enrolled at a 2-year school, you can make sure that you can get all your classes in at the times that you want to take them. CLC has a wonderful transition program to a 4-year institution. So for example, if you're thinking about going on to a 4-year school to finish your degree like U of I, they will set you up to take the courses and the general requirements, so they will easily transition over to your bachelor's degree at U of I. Saves you time and it saves you money. We may have the possibility of a CLC field trip in spring of 2023. Stay tuned, that's still all on the docket. So some next steps. Review the College and Career Counseling Google site. Reference that college application list that I put together. Make sure that you're hitting Carmel's internal deadline requests for your transcripts and your recommendation letters in Maya Learning at least 2 weeks prior to your application deadline. Sign up for those college rep visits on Veracross and visit college fairs. Complete the FAFSA beginning October 1st. And if you'd like to learn more about financial aid and how to pay for college, jump onto our webinar on October 11th. So these are some upcoming dates. Next Thursday, September 7th, we are part of the North Suburban Athletic Conference. And we have a consortium of Lake County schools that partner together, and they bring what's called an NCAA eligibility workshop to a local high school. This year, Warren Township High School, the Eau Plaine campus, will be hosting the NCAA workshop. So if you're a college athlete and you're thinking about playing at the next college level, I highly encourage you to join this workshop next Thursday at 7 o'clock. If you are a parent and you have younger students that are thinking about playing athletics in college, you can bring them as well too. It's geared towards all high school ages. Again, we talked about those college rep visits kicking off next Tuesday. I'll be hosting a couple application completion drop-in workshops after school. So seniors, you can come see me in the CCRC on Thursday, September 27th and Thursday, October 27th, and I'll help you out with your applications. You can also drop into my office or make an appointment at any point as well. Talked about financial aid. If you are someone that's thinking about applying to the University of Notre Dame, there's a program called ND on the Road. This is a college admission representative from the University of Notre Dame that usually goes to a local high school, and they host a student and family presentation. So this will be hosted at St. Viator High School on October 12th. It's the date of the standardized testing exam day here at Carmel. So if you'd like to go to it, it's at St. Viator High School at 7 o'clock. The College of Lake County is hosting a fall college fair on October 13th. If you're still thinking about schools that you can add to your college list, I heavily encourage you to attend that college fair. And last but not least, this is a really great college fair for students who have learning differences or who have a 504 plan or an IEP plan. If you're looking for a college or university that can offer additional learning supports for you, I highly encourage you to check out the Choices Post-Secondary Fair at Evanston High School on Tuesday, October 18th. There are hundreds of colleges out there that can fit your learning and support needs, and they also have an incredible database on their website, choicespostsecondary.org. All right, we're almost there. So some important reminders. If you have a schedule change in your senior year and you've already started to apply to colleges, make sure you let the colleges know if you decided to drop a class or substitute a different class in. Oftentimes on your applications, they're going to ask you to report your senior year classes, and if they get your transcript in June or July and they see, hey, we saw that you dropped your math class, why did you do that? You need to let them know sooner than later because they could rescind your offer of admission. Always check the college and university's website for application requirements. Can't encourage that enough. You will find your most up-to-date information on their websites. Your senior year matters. Don't let senioritis hit you. Colleges have been known to rescind offers of admission if they see a plummet in your grades. Don't be that person. You have to push through to the finish line. Your transcripts are going to begin being sent after Labor Day, so next Tuesday if you make those requests in Maya. In order to graduate, you need to make sure that you complete all your required graduation credits and service hours. When you start to be awarded scholarship dollars, you need to report that information to me. Our marketing team loves to be able to say what the return on investment of sending your student to Carmel Catholic is, and I'd love to be able to tell them how much scholarship money our class of 2023 was awarded. And last but not least, the national deposit deadline date is May 1st. So that means you have until May 1st to make a decision as to where you would like to attend. Take the time, once you start getting admission decisions, even before you get admission decisions, to go onto the college campuses, check out their universities, and see if it's a good fit for you. Allow yourself the gift of time, get started sooner than later, because that May 1st deadline will definitely creep up on you pretty quick. But there's a lot to look forward to. I'm excited to be on this journey with all of you. We are here to partner with you, your counselors, myself. We are here to be great resources to advocate and to help all of you in this process. This is my contact information. Feel free to send me an email if you have any questions. Students, if you'd like to make an appointment with me, I have a Calendly link. I also have a QR code for that as well. And then there's also a link to the College and Career Counseling Google site. I will be making this recording available to everybody over the next couple of days, along with my slides in a PDF version with all of the hyperlinks on here. Thank you so much, everyone, for coming tonight. This was really great to present to all of you, and I'm excited for this next chapter of your lives. All right, we did it. We did it. Thank you. We did it.